Oh, they're good to go. Okay. Today is Monday, October 3rd of 2022, or the regular council meeting for the town of Rocky Mountain House, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. 2.1, the acknowledgement of Indigenous peoples. The town of Rocky Mountain House wishes to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory and the traditional meeting ground and home for many Indigenous peoples, including the Blackfoot, Cree, Saulteaux, Stoney, and Métis. 3.1, to the adoption of the agenda. To adopt the agenda, are there any additions to today's agenda? Seeing none, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda for October 3rd? Councillor Hutchinson.
I'll adopt the agenda for October 3rd as presented.
Thank you. All in favor? And that's carried. So delegations, I'm pleased to have two delegations today. Our first delegation is 4.1, the Rocky Skate Park Committee with Sarah Foddy and Jeremy Volek. Welcome. And it's working.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for allowing us to speak about the skate park and its current needs. I am here today to ask that the skate park be added to the budget. It is in need of repairs and an expansion to accommodate the needs of our community. I did send over some images showing some of the areas where the cement needs repairs. The first image that I'd like you to look at is where the cement meets the gravel. So it's these two pictures. So
kids come out of the quarter pipe.
Turn your mic on there, please. Sorry for interrupting.
Sorry, kids come out of the quarter pipe and there's nowhere for them to land out of there. They come up and they hit that gravel and they
Have a wreck.
yeah, like just about every time.
So for example, when they come up out of that and there's nowhere else for them to come when they're coming off of that tower, it's just straight to that location. And it's a pretty good, like a significant difference. So if you're coming up with a skateboard and you land partially like this or partially on the cement, the same thing with bikes, the same thing with scooters, there is accidents every day that we're out there. Last week, a kid dislocated their collarbone because of the way that they landed, just because of the way that they do
Transition
the transition is.
It should be cement all the way through, just so they're not landing.
Just leave it on.
I'll just leave it on, yes. Yeah, it's just because of the way they transition when you're coming out. It's you're landing on gravel and that's not something you can do with a skateboard.
Right. Have you measured the distance of what you're asking for from the edge of the pavement there outwards? Like what distance of concrete are you suggesting? Like it'd be silly to make it and then not have it the right.
Yeah.
Pretty much what you got to do, because it comes to a V and you just pretty much got to fill in that V,
Yeah. Where
that gap. It's
With
not
this
like
back-
you're expanding it out any further. You're just filling in that space that's a void there already.
Like so up into the grass on that.
Yeah.
other
Yes,
picture.
that
Yeah.
whole, like that whole area, the grass where it looks
Yeah.
like dirt.
if that does make sense. The so another location that is of concern is there's an approximately about a 2-inch lip. So you're coming down when you first come in to the skate park, I'll do that. That picture, I don't know who's doing the picture. So right along that edge there,
Just the cement
yeah,
right in there.
that is almost, it's the easiest one for learners, for anybody who's learning.
Down this route, there's a 2-inch lip there and I've skateboarded for 20 some odd years and I've fallen there.
Is it because of the transition between the asphalt and the concrete?
It needs to, I think it needs to be cement and tied together so that it doesn't move up and down. Because we live in Alberta, it's gonna move up and down if it's not tied together.
Right. So probably what would need to happen, you think, would be to remove the asphalt and then pour
Maybe
concrete there so
pour
that it's
cement up,
tied?
yes.
Yeah. And so like that for young skateboarders, that's the easiest transition that we have currently at our skate park. So anybody who's trying to utilize the rest of the skate park to do any of the those kinds of ramps, it's kind of unusable for them because they're going to wipe out. So there's several other areas of the cement where it has been repaired, but it's not uniformly flat surface. So if you're coming down any of the pieces and you hit those where they're kind of bumpy, there is opportunity to fall. Years ago, a process was began with New Line. They make skate parks throughout.
They built just about everyone in Alberta.
Yeah. And they have drawings. I don't know if it was the town. We don't have access to the drawings, but we assume that it was the town that had approached them because they've already done drawings for an expansion and to improve the skate park from previous years. So when we contacted them to actually come out and do a quote for us, they said they've already done that and that they're here somewhere, but we don't have access to it because we don't own the property. So our skate park was one of the very first skate parks that was built in Alberta, which says a lot about our community and how forward thinking it was even back then. I think it was the second one built in Alberta, which is pretty cool. It provides a valuable outdoor space that allows the youth to have a place to practice their action sports. And so skateboarding, biking, scootering, they're considered action sports. We even have unicyclers, rollerbladers. We also have a special needs person who's in a wheelchair that actually comes to access and participate. And if you ever Google anything that's skateboarding, if you see that even people in wheelchairs will actually do that, that one lip right there makes our location difficult for them to come up and do some of those easy ramps as well. In 2021, a group of our youth in our community decided that they wanted to make the skate park a better place. By this, they wanted to make the space larger, repair the current failing cement and create a safe space for skaters to learn and grow their skills. The youth began the Skate and Learn program. I think that's what you might have been seeing, what we post every Tuesday. So we have a group of youth in our community that actually was like, we need to mentor and teach the kids how to ride their skateboards correctly. Of course, there's scooters and bikes and everything else that come to this. Typically, we have over 45 youth that come out every week, which is a lot of kids.
That's typically, we've had up to like 65.
Mhm.
And when you have 65 kids all going into one area, because the way that skate park's designed, it all flows into one area. It potentially becomes a bit of a hazard at that point. Like, in my own personal opinion, our town's outgrown our skate park. It needs to be expanded. We need spots for younger kids to be able to skateboard where the big kids aren't going to run into them or vice versa. You know what I mean?
And so most of the communities, because skateboarding has changed, right? It's no longer looked upon as, well, hopefully it's not. It's more, that we're including them as, sports, that a lot of the skate parks actually have a large flat space that has something called like a mani pad where it has a lift for them to learn how to do different jumps and actually do it safely in a location where they're not being bombarded with skaters that are coming in all to the same direction. And there's nothing that we can change currently with that. That is an expansion that is needed to be done. And pretty much most of the 45 kids are new kids coming to learn the sport. So they're in the way, not in the way, but in the way of other people coming down, and that's accidents, right? I didn't have time to add this to the thing because it happened actually after the fact. Is it okay to pass
To Tracy.
Okay. Yeah. So if you look,
Oh, yeah.
we did spray paint with permission from the town, right? And cleaned up the whole area. But if you just pause for 1 second, Mr. Phillips, before you pass it, where that skate park, if you can look where it says Rocky Skate Park, and then you look, there's actually a crack that now has come across that whole portion right through where we've spray painted. And there's actually a hole that continues to get larger. So when we say the cement is failing, it's actually failing. And that's because look at when you repair some sidewalks, every so often you actually have to go in and dig that out and actually do a full repair of whatever is happening in there. I don't know what is behind that hole, but I can imagine that it's going to continue to get larger and
Well, and
larger.
it's gonna get older. I do concrete for a living. It just happens.
Mhm.
And that park was poured when I was 15 years old. I'm 42 now, so it's a lot old concrete.
Sorry. So our skate park is also a tourism draw. We've successfully been able to have two competitions this year and last year. Last year, we had close to 300 people that came from other communities to our community to participate, watch the sport, all of those different things. And throughout the season, people from other communities come and join our skate and learn program, come and meet us on Saturdays and just skate with us. So people from Red Deer, people from Edmonton. This year we had competitors that came from Edmonton, Calgary, Red Deer, and Lethbridge that specifically came to our park. And we were asked to actually be part of that circuit to host a competition so that there was competitions for skateboarders throughout all of the entire summer.
Yeah.
And as part of being on that, there's like a website and it has, as a group, we're going to meet at the Banff skate park. As a group, we're going to meet at the Rocky Skate Park for the weekend and they're going to skate. Like that's what they do. We did a survey and most of the people that came to our skate jam had said that we needed to update our park in order for us to be added to that list of, hey, we're going to bring that group of people here because of the different safety issues that we have where they can't just bring everybody in to utilize that space.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that we take a look at what our economy is. And this is actually a sport that's pretty much basically free in our community this year. The seniors from the one over by Creekside, they donated a whole bunch of skateboarders to actually take away some of the barriers for our kids in our community so that they could actually take a skateboard home with them. They donated some money to as well to help with our, we feed them.
Yeah.
Yes, which, right, yeah. And
Pizza there every week.
yeah, and part of that is like our economy. There's some people that come there specifically knowing that they're going to get a meal. I know that has nothing to do with what we're doing, but it's a bigger thing when you know that they can come to a safe location. And we've been told several times that in the last 2 years, what a difference it is and that people feel comfortable now to just send their kids to come to the skate park because they know that there's not the chaos that used to be there. And so we've started a ball rolling and it would be nice to keep the ball going and to actually do the
Yes,
improvements.
I've had teenagers come and talk to me, like I've built a relationship with them since we've started all this, and they'll actually come and talk to us now when on a personal level, right? Like it's a good thing that what's going on, I think. And when you go to the skate park now, you don't see a bunch of kids just wrecking the place anymore. You see families with kids and it's not the same as it was 2 years ago.
No. So we have skate and learn tomorrow. It's between 6 and 7. And I would like to invite you guys to come and see what actually happens there. Just because it's kind of an awesome thing. And it was youth driven, which is also huge in our community. That's kind of our presentation.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciate that. And we'll open it up to council to ask any questions now. Councillor Phillips.
Just a quick question. So, you know, I once upon a time was a skateboarder myself when I was a teenager, maybe 3 years ago. But so your request is kind of two-pronged. One, repairs of the current site,
Yeah.
and then potentially phase 2 would be looking at
Yes.
expanding the site,
Yes.
correct? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson.
How old did you figure out the skate park is? Anybody?
I looked and I didn't have that. I just know that
27 years old.
Wes,
I
do you
don't
know
know
that?
about.
2000. 22 years.
And newer parks that are being built, is it still the same base concrete or is there?
It's probably not because New Line, they use a special type of concrete, so it does it, so they can pour it up the slopes and stuff, right? Where when ours was poured, it was designed by 3 teenagers out of our school. And they just had concrete guys from town do it, right? Where nowadays, the stuff is all made. It dries faster. They don't use actually water. They put a chemical in it and it dries faster so that it doesn't slide down, and it's just a better material that they use.
So would the repairs be done with a new material? Or is it,
The repairs would
Something
probably
that's-
be done with the same, like a normal concrete, but the new additions would be built with new materials.
thank you.
With that same question, before I go to Councillor Boniface, do they do a resurfacing? Like, I know sometimes you can put like a. glue on it
Resurfacing
and
is
then-
usually a hard thing to do because it's gonna peel out eventually.
I'm
Like
just-
I've done driveways and driveways and driveways trying to resurface them, and they always peel out no matter what. After 2-3 years, like you can make it look pretty, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's still structurally not sound, right? There's some things that just need to be fixed. Cause of structural stuff, right? Like the crack going across the whole thing, obviously that's a structural thing. If it keeps getting larger. Like if you can see it throughout this one summer, it's a structural problem.
And we were just lucky to actually have the pictures of like the before and then during the spray paint. And then I was like, that was not there. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Boniface?
The cement that would be used would be more of a polymer based cement.
Yeah.
So it'll expand and contract during cold.
Hmm.
And if we're gonna do it, we should certainly look at just cutting out large sections of this and re-pouring it all with polymer cement so that, you know, there's no sense of doing a repair when we know
Needs to be
it'll only
replaced.
last a certain amount of time. We'd be better off replacing.
Mhm.
Councillor Ald?
That's kind of the lines of my question. Would we need to totally rip out all the existing stuff and rebuild from scratch? Is that-
No, I think a lot of it is still structurally sound. There's only the one section where the crack is, I think, that has structural problems. The rest is basic. It just needs a facelift.
just like your sidewalks, right? So you don't tear out the entire sidewalk throughout town, you just take out that area and fix that. And as obviously it's going to fail eventually, but it's not, the rest of it is not currently.
Thank you. Councillor Boniface?
I'll just bring it up. I found a company that will come into a town and resurface sidewalks with a polymer cement. And they're putting a 15-year warranty on their work, not to scald off. So it may be something for us to take a look at, because then we could resurface the entire area with a new polymer cement. And we'd have a 15-year guarantee against any damage. So it might be something to look at when we discuss further.
And just before you go, New Way, so you've talked to them and they've already got some
New
price,
line,
sort of new line.
Yeah.
You've already talked to them and they've already done some pricing quotes.
Yeah.
For exactly what you're asking for.
Well,
or-
I'm not sure like what their layout is and stuff, because we haven't been able to see what their blueprints are, right? So we don't know if that's what our town, like what our kids would want or what. So we need to touch base with them and whoever got the original blueprints, right? Because we need to see them to see if it's even something that would be good, right?
Mr. Kraus, is that something that we would have on file?
So Mayor, we would. I mean, I think that was also part of the rec master planning, future projects. So we would have some at least preliminary drawings
Mhm.
on it. And the costing is probably dated, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we would have that. So.
And is it then, do you know if it's still in our master plan? Like, we haven't got that matrix yet, right? Like, is it in the matrix? Do you know?
Your worship, I don't really recall. But that the matrix is going to service level, so
Next weekend.
next weekend.
Thank you so much. I think that answered my question. Does anybody else have any questions for Jeremy or Sarah? Well, I do certainly appreciate all your volunteer hours that you spend with our youth and making our community a better place. And thank you so much for your presentation today. Great job.
Thank you for hearing us.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have another delegation today from Alberta Recycling, and is that going to be live on Zoom? Yes. So that's 4.2, Alberta Recycling with Brad Schultz. And we're just bringing that up now.
Hi, Brad. Do we have you?
Yes, you do. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Administration.
Brad, we don't see your video. I don't know if you intend to have it on, and if you would like to share your screen to manage
There
the
we go.
slides. There you are. Hi.
Well, yes. Hello there. Good afternoon.
Good
And yeah,
afternoon.
I can, sorry. Can you all see that?
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, and I've done a few of these with other councils and we ran into IT glitches. So what had happened is you folks have,
Perhaps because I didn't have it enabled. Could you try again, please?
okay,
Yeah, we've got you.
all right, good stuff.
All right. Laura is turning off her mic and passing it back to the chair. Thanks, Brad.
All right.
So Brad, go ahead and start your presentation.
Sure. And once again, thank you for having me. And the purpose of the presentation is just to simply share with council and administration the outcome of the Curbside Roundup that we held in your community a couple of weeks ago. But before I dive into it, just a little bit of background. I'm not sure if council is familiar with Alberta Recycling Management Authority. We are not government, provincial government. We run recycling programs on behalf of the government, and we report to the Minister of Environment and Parks. The 4 recycling programs that we do manage is the electronics, paint, tires, and used oil. So each time one of us as a consumer goes out and buy a tire, we pay that extra $4 for environmental fee. Same with electronics, TV, computer. Again, with paint, we buy a can of paint or a spray bomb. Again, there's an environmental fee attached to that, and same with the used oil. Alberta Recycling is celebrating its 30th year. We have approximately 40 employees, and we're based out of Edmonton. So the main point is to share the results of the Curbside Roundup that was held September 19th and 20th. And I'm just going to provide a little bit of background on how we ended up in Rocky Mountain House, some planning and some coordination and advertising, how we let your residents know about the event. And then I'm going to share the results, the volume of material that was collected from your residents during that 2 days. But a little background. So right now, Alberta Recycling requires municipalities to register their recycling depot if they want to take advantage of the incentives that we pay for in regards to materials coming in. You guys house the material along with, gosh, and again, I think we have about 375, almost up to 400 sites registered across the province of Alberta. And it just allows Albertans the convenience to dropping off their recyclables, and they paid a environmental fee and given the opportunity to make sure it's kept out of the waste stream. But since COVID come upon us back in 2020, that volume numbers started going down at all these recycling stations, eco stations, transfer stations, landfills, simply because with COVID, people are a little shy getting out and not dropping off their material. So they're starting to hoard the material. So we did a little bit of brainstorming internally and trying to think, how can we get this material out of people's garages, basements, and so on, and encourage them to go to the recycling centers. So we made a decision that we would try a bit of a pilot. Instead of them going to the recycling centers, we would go to them, hence the curbside pickup. So in 2020, we approached Olds, and their council was extremely positive in trying this, understanding we showed them the numbers and how they've dropped over the years. And so they jumped aboard, allowed us to come in to their community. The size of Olds required a 3-day event. So we traveled the residential streets and we collected actually fairly large volumes. So last year, again, we tried the town of Devon, again, a huge success. And just because of the results we received during the Olds and the Devon event, we tackled 4 events and yours was the last one for this year. So we've been at Wainwright, Westlock, Berterheim, and just Rocky here a couple of weeks ago. So just a little bit of information on how we got to where we are today. So to make all this happen, we had to engage with some staff at the town of Rocky, and kudos to Sean and Laura. They bent over backwards to accommodate us and help us get the word out to your residents. I don't know if it's review time for them too, but just putting a plug in. They did an excellent job assisting us. Anyways, we provided up to $5,000. We're still waiting for the invoices from Rocky so we can reimburse you for the advertisement that you did through the local media. Just some of the other tools we used was postcards. You folks printed postcards and did the mail outs, which we want to cover the costs on. Utility newsletters, ads there, your local newspaper, your digital billboard in town, social media, your town website, and along with ours, we do a lot of social media, and we used our platform to get the word out too. So just an example of some of the digital advertisement. And then the postcards that were delivered throughout the residents of your community, just getting the word out, the dates, splitting your town in half, tying it in with your normal waste section of town, day 1, day 2. And then obviously, I'm sure all you folks had the opportunity to see your digital billboard. So well advertised throughout your community. Lots of public awareness during this event. And our motley crew, the 4 of us, tackled your community in a 2-day event. So. Then I'm just going to show a couple snapshots, and I know this was in your council package, but anything that covered under the 4 programs, so electronics, anything with a battery or cord, except white goods, forms part of the program. Paint, aerosols, tires, regardless if they have rims or not, and used oil, filters, and empty filter or empty oil containers form part of the program. So just a bit of a shot here. The gal helping me here, that's a battery operated guitar, so it obviously formed part of the program. Just an example, stuff that people left out on the curb, that was us picking it up. Got 3 or more other photos for you. Obviously, great response when you see volumes like this sitting outside people's front lawns, and so better here than in the waste stream. So even though they've been hanging on to it for a period of time, at least they didn't try to sneak it through the garbage collection or to dispose of it improperly through the storm or sanitary sewer. So good news there. A couple more photos. So actually your residents participated quite well. Day 1 was a little slow. Day 2, obviously through your waste removal schedule, day 2, you have a lot more dwellings, but good uptake. So then some results. First, I'll start with paint and the volume of paint that we did pick up. And just to help understand what this trailer is all about, there's 3 1 cubic yard meter bins. We used 1 bin for paint, 1 for household hazardous waste, and 1 for empty used oil containers and jugs of oil. We collected 4 bins of paint, which is approximately 1,000 gallons. There's about 250 gallons per bin, and 460 aerosols were left out at the curb that were collected. Tires, not a lot of tires. Traditionally, we get 3, 4, up to 500 tires. There's only 43 tires, which is a good thing. People aren't hoarding their tires, and when they do change over to winter and summer and there's no more life to them, they're leaving them at the tire shops. So that's a good thing. Electronics, and again, this is anything with a cord or a battery, excluding white goods that form part of the recycling program. Large volumes here. We had a good response based on just the electronics that were left at the curb. And even this baby swing that requires a battery forms part of the project. So wanted to make sure that didn't enter the waste stream and material recycled. And these two photos is us unloading the electronics that'll be recycled at the processor's facility here in Edmonton. So there was about 17 cages, approximately 420 items that were left out at the curb. So again, good news story when you're collecting all these hair dryers and vacuums, microwaves, popcorn makers, toasters, so on and so forth. So again, good response and based on volume. Used oil. So again, here, one of our guys are decanning, emptying into the bulk container that you folks have over to the recycling center. Anything that come in, we made sure we emptied all the containers into the bulk container. And the folks over there were extremely good. You got great contractors running that facility. They're so cooperative in assisting us. So positive results over there too. Just some of the 5-gallon pails that we picked up along the curb. But the overall volume, there was about 420 liters of used oil. There was a bunch of empty containers, about 240 empty containers that were set at the curb, and 45 oil filters. So you have a few do-it-yourselfers, back alley mechanics in your community that choose to change their oil themselves rather than going to the lube shop. And then about a 45-gallon drum of antifreeze/glycol that we collected bulked at your recycling station. Then the last material stream that we collected is HHW, household hazardous waste. So this is anything like WD-40, oven cleaner, Drano, just products that you usually find under the sink that you're hoping people won't dispose of through the waste stream. And again, when you get a bin and a half, when you get 1 cubic meter bin, and so we've picked up a fair amount of chemicals and aerosols outside of spray cans, of paint spray cans and so on. So a good response there. And then this is just us sorting. We have to go through the bins as come back, sorting through, so we're not contaminating the bins when it goes to end of life. End of life means a paint recycler or a household hazardous waste recycler. There's truly the material in the bins that need to be recycled from that particular downstream processor. So again, I can't thank your staff enough. They made this exercise go so easy and smooth. Residents were well aware of the event. Got good uptake from the citizens of Rocky Mountain House. So I just wanted to say thank you to the staff and council for allowing us to come into your community and just see if you do have folks in your community that sit on a lot of this material, and if there's a need to go to them rather than them going to the recycling station. So not sure if there's any questions.
I'll just look around the room. I see Councillor Auld has a question or a comment.
Sure.
Can you elaborate on the environmental fees, where the fees actually go, how much is collected a year through the environmental fees, and how that gets distributed to Alberta Recycling?
I can, and I don't have it right in front of me, but I've been around with the organization for about 18 years, so I'm not going to be far off in the numbers that I share with you. So the tire program itself requires about $22 to $25 million annually to run. And so every time a vehicle is sold or a person purchases a tire, they have to pay an environmental fee, a recycling fee. And based on the rim size of the tire, that money comes to us. So every $4 when you pay to purchase a tire, that comes to Alberta Recycling. Then what we do with that chunk of money, and when we're saying a chunk of money, it's running around $23 million to run the tire program on an annual basis. We hire contractors to go to And just thinking of your community, because I did do a drive around the Fountain Tires, the Cal Tires, the Edward garages, and so on. There's large volume of tires sitting there. So I also follow up to make sure our contractors are doing the job. So we engage contractors to collect throughout the province. And there's over 2,700 shops, tire shops, dealerships that these contractors have to collect from. And then they take it to one of the 3 tire recyclers that are associated in Alberta. There's one just outside of Crossfields, there's one right here in Edmonton, and there's one at Legal, Alberta, just north of Warrenville. And that's where these tires get ground up into 3 different material streams. One we call a tire-derived aggregate. It replaces conventional gravel for road construction projects and leachate collection projects in the bases of landfills. They'll make landscape mulch out of it. And the biggest market in the tires right now is crumb. And crumb is used for synthetic sports fields or into molded products or whatever. And believe it or not, there's been years where we're short of tires. There's more demand on the material stream than we have of scrap tires. So we've had to pull tires in from other provinces just to meet the demands. So a bit of a long story in tires, but the same works with electronics. Electronics program requires more funding. It runs around $35 to $40 million on an annual basis. And every time we as consumers go out and buy a computer, a TV, any type of visual display, a printer, that recycling fee comes to us. We engage the logistics side of contractors to run around the province to collect all electronics at different municipalities. This is the 375 to 400 collection sites that I had mentioned. And then they go to end of life facilities. We have, in the electronics program, we have 6 approved electronics processors, recyclers, that break them down, separate the plastic from the precious metals, the ferrous, the non-ferrous metals, and so on and so forth, pulling out hard drives, ink cartridges, making sure it's all kept out of the waste stream and truly recycled. The same process with paint, believe it or not, leftover paint is recycled into, there's 2 different processes. If paint is still in a good liquidy form, it gets blended with new paint and back on the shelf. And interesting, listening to your skate park presentation, latex paint, the chemistry within latex paint gets added to bottom ash. Bottom ash is a product that makes concrete. And so when there's that cottage cheese, hockey puck is what we call it, just for layman's term, at the bottom of that paint can, that still gets recycled. And as I say, the chemistry within latex paint does get blended in with bottom ash, and it's a strengthener, it's a hardener for concrete. So, and then oil-based paint, which we find very little of now. They because of the VOCs, they don't make as much oil-based paint, but the material that does come in, we use it as a fuel blend. It ends up at Swan Hills for a fuel blend. And the same with used oil. You can re-refine oil. We recycle the filters. We grind up the plastic containers, either 5-gallon pails or 1 liter jugs. And that gets into, we all know of superwood. And there is a manufacturer in Southern Alberta over by Lethbridge that'll take all the plastics that we generate through our paint program and through our used oil program into making new products. So we're quite fortunate, end of life facilities are here in Alberta. Very little of our commodities that come out of these 4 material streams ends up in another province or else shipped stateside. So we're quite proud of the recycling programs that we do have in place. So
we
don't know if that answered your question. I could go on, but I know my time is limited.
It's my question. My real question would be, does the recycling, Alberta Recycling, do they get 100% of the environmental fees that are charged to the consumer?
We do, because we also have a team of auditors that go out to make sure all the businesses are remitting the right amount of money based on their sales. It's a 90-10 split. 90% of it goes to contractors and processors. 10% is administrative fees to manage the program.
Thank you.
I have another question from Councillor Phillips.
So thank you for your presentation today. The question I have is with the upcoming EPR happening in the province, do you anticipate that that's going to allow ARMA to do more in the way of curbside roundups or more expanded programs?
Actually, we see the opposite. And the way I respond to that particular question, and EPR is a loaded question, because now the responsibility of keeping all this material, and let me be clear, the electronics paint, tire, and used oil program is not going to be switched over to an extended producer responsibility program. It's going to stay as a stewardship program. But as we get into household hazardous waste, because right now there isn't a program, we collect it and we fund it, but into an extended producer responsibility, the manufacturers of plastics, paper and packaging, household hazardous waste now becomes a responsibility of the manufacturer, the actual producer of this material. And we are probably going to end up being oversight bodies, making sure the rules that the government is putting in place in regards to an EPO program, the manufacturers are following the rules. Manufacturers, and don't quote me, but manufacturers are not in the business of meeting environmental outcomes. Manufacturers are in the business of making money. So there's going to have to be required a strong oversight to make sure they meet their responsibilities in recycling this material and keeping it out of the waste stream. So I think, we're going to have to push the envelope harder with an EPR program versus a stewardship program, simply because manufacturers, producers have obligations now that they have to be met. And really, they're not in the business of meeting environmental outcomes and requirements set in place by provincial governments. They're in the business to make money. So we understand that we're going to have a handful if we are service providers or if we are oversight providers. But I don't think these curbside events, municipal recycling stations are going to benefit the way they should be in regards to a stewardship program versus an EPR program. So there's a lot of work. I know provincial government, we've been working closely with them in trying to move forward with an extended producer responsibility program, but we are getting pushback right now from the manufacturers. And that's where the stumbling block is.
Do you think it's going to become like an eco program, like with paint, where retailers are going to be collecting that fee instead?
No. All that's going to happen is, and let me use paper and packaging, for instance, every time we go out and buy a box of cornflakes, it's going to cost us more simply because the manufacturer has to recover the cost of collecting that cardboard, keeping it out of the waste stream, and making sure they're meeting the performance outcomes that are going to be put into place. So it's just going to end up being the consumer paying more. We understand language is, extended producer responsibility, meaning they're responsible, but they're not going to dig into their own pockets to make sure it's kept out of the waste stream. Consumers are going to be paying more for those products for these programs to work.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody else on council have any questions? We don't have any follow-up questions here. Did you want to make one final comment or say anything else?
The only thing I really want to, kudos to your staff. They really made things easy for us, both at your collection site, your administrative staff. So I just wanted to thank them again, because it was quite a pleasure, spending 3 days in your community and working with your folks. So I just wanted to thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for providing this program for our citizens. I think seeing how well they've jumped on board, it was a great benefit for all of our citizens. And thank you again for your presentation.
Alrighty, you're very welcome. Okay, take care.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, so moving forward in the agenda, excuse me, adoption of previous minutes. Were there any additions or deletions to the regular council meeting minutes of September 20th of 2022? Looking to Councillor Hutchinson, goes over it very well. So with seeing no additions or deletions, I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the previous minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the September 20th meeting 22.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phillips. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So delegation business 6.1 delegation from the Rocky Skate Park Committee from Sarah Foddy and Jeremy Volek. Did we want to have a little discussion on that item? Councillor Phillips?
Mr. Kraus, we're discussing this matter at the service level retreat next week. Is that correct?
So Mayor to Councillor Phillips. So the matrix is coming to council for discussion on all rec projects. So there's a two-prong request here. So the expansion would be in that matrix, but not the repairs. So if council wants, we can put it in the draft budget, you know, the two requests for the additional concrete and taking care of that lip, and then council can look at the whole capital budget to make decisions from there. So I guess we'd be looking for that direction if council wants that.
And would that be in a motion today?
Yes.
Councillor Phillips?
I mean, obviously, we have facilities, they get old, things need repairs. So I think it's definitely something that we should look at. The costs of it, the scope of it, and see what we can put into the capital budget, if there's room in the capital budget. I definitely think it's you know, to take care of our facilities and make sure that they last as long as they can. Repairs are needed from time to time, so I think that would be a good thing to do.
Do we have any other comments from council?
Mayor, just for clarification, we do repairs on a skate park, you know, like on an annual basis. And I think 2 years ago, we actually had a contractor come in and donate time, did several concrete repairs. So for the capital project, it'd be like the expansion of that concrete and so.
And I did mean to indicate that we don't take care of our resources. I know we definitely do that for sure. And that's just want to make sure that's clear, that I don't say we're not taking care of our resources.
So Councillor Hutchinson, did you have a comment?
Just so with that maintenance, is it on like a regular maintenance program, like other facility playgrounds, things like that?
So Mayor to Councillor Hutchison, yeah, so it's part of our operating budget for like the minor repairs, nothing major. That lateral crack, I think that's new. I mean, that would not be an operating budget. We'd have to assess that. Because that would probably be a major repair and that would go into the capital budget.
Will we have time to do some of those assessments like they've asked for before we go to budget meeting next week?
So next week is service level, so it's not
Oh.
budget meeting.
Sorry.
But I think and Mr. Shanks can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we have priced out that concrete at one point in time. 20,000 comes to mind, but we could include that in the capital budget for the additional concrete.
And so just for clarification, we won't be discussing it until budget review, this project.
Yes.
Okay.
The expansion of the skateboard park, I think that is in the matrix. But that would be at service level, but that's an entirely new separate project.
Okay. Did we have any other questions or comments? I feel the same way as Councillor Phillips. I think, you know, obviously from their presentation, it's being a well-used, you know, asset in our community, and anything to keep our youth occupied in a positive way is and it's already there. Like, we already have it. It's not like we're redesigning a wheel. I would like to see us do that. So today for the motion, we need a motion to bring this to budget level review.
Yeah, so mayor would be that or council instruct administration to include the concrete work at the skateboard park in the draft 2023 budget.
Okay. Thank you very much. Would anybody like to make that motion? So I think okay,
So, yeah,
Councillor Phillips?
if our conversation's finished on that, then I'd like to make a motion that council request administration to bring the costing of concrete work at the spray park to the 2023 budget process. Capital budget process.
And do you need that separated into repairs and expansion?
So we workshop, so repairs are part of our operating budget, so that'll just stay within our operating budget. We'll assess it for any repairs and that will just go in the operating budget. That's just normal operations. But the expansion, like council can discuss at the service level.
Okay. Thank you very much. So all in favor of that motion, if there's no other comments, seeing none, that's carried. So the delegation for Alberta Recycling from Brad Schultz. Did we have any further comments or questions on that? So could we have a motion to accept for information his presentation? Councillor Boniface.
I'll make the motion that we accept Alberta Recycling's for information purposes.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Excuse me. So moving forward in the agenda, we have some old business, an RFD request for fee relaxation for nonprofit garbage disposal, 7.1. And I see Mr. Rob Shanks is going to be giving us some information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So Katie Jones had with the 7-day Adventist Church had approached the town wanting relaxation fees, as you all remember. Administration was asked to reach out to a few communities. We reached out to the ones in the paper here, plus a few more, probably about 12 is what we've reached out to, and they're all the same. There is no exceptions for nonprofit organizations with relaxation fees for drop-offs when they're completed. So
Thank you very much for your time on this issue. I did notice myself that there was a charity in Sundre that was asking residents all over Facebook to please be, aware of what items they were dropping off, because garbage is a cost to their charity, and that's obviously a neighboring community. So I really appreciate your time in looking into this. And I agree with the summary that a business or charity receiving donations is responsible for pre-sorting and disposing of the items. Thank you very much for that. Did we have any further questions, Councillor Hutchinson?
I had brought it up before about some type of a punch card or prepay something. Maybe on the lines for the nonprofits. This also came up at one of the meetings I had attended, because they don't have cash. So they're going to the Eco Center once a week, $3 on a credit card, because they don't have debit cards or anything for some of these groups. So if there was something we could possibly look into on, I don't know, preload your Rocky Pass card or something. I know we kind of talked about it a while back, but that just might be something, a solution. So then if they're getting cash donations, they can load up a card and trust their staff instead of giving cash, kind of thing. So
would something like we do, like the 10 punch pass at the swimming pool, would something like that work, do you think, at the recycling? Because it works at the pool. Is that something?
Mayor, I think we administratively would have to look into that, and I think we can have a big, we probably have the answer by service level review. The waste in the eco center is obviously a topic at service level review too, so we can investigate that and bring it to council then.
Okay, do we have to do that on an administrative ask or a motion?
No, we'll just do it because it's already a topic at the service level.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one thing we need to remember with going with anything outside of the norm is that it is still gonna come at a cost. It still will cost to take whatever materials to wherever it goes. It's a tough one, I understand that, but we need to treat everybody fairly and the same. Since this inquiry came through, we've been watching this area a lot. And it has had nothing compared to what it was before she came in here. So I think they've been doing their own policing as well and advertising to kind of help out with the mess that was there. So.
Yeah, and it's great that the public has gained some knowledge and understanding that garbage is a cost.
Yeah.
It can't be put onto a charity. Again, thank you very much. We don't have any further questions, so we need a motion to accept the report for information. Is that, would anybody like to make that motion? Councillor Hutchinson,
I'll make the motion to accept 7.1 as information.
thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Moving forward in the agenda to 7.2, an RFD for the off-leash dog park location.
Good afternoon, your worship and council. So I'm for you today just to present the results of some of the work that we've been doing administratively to find a new location potentially for our off-leash dog park. As council is aware of, when the future home of the pump track bike park location was determined last spring. We utilizing the current off-leash dog park and the CRL leased lands. Plans are progressing for that project, which makes it important for us to find a new home for the off-leash dog park administration. We did receive some correspondence from the local resident that offers dog training with several suggestions of what should be looked at when looking for an off-leash dog park locations, size, location, close to roads or highways or bike paths, access to water, access to trees for shade, benches and sitting areas, waste dispensers, receptacles, washrooms, large parking lot, and then other, play equipment for the dogs and access to walking for those pet owners that will not only let their dogs run, but they can get some exercise as well. So we looked at about 8 different locations. We've come up with 4 that I've included, or actually 3 main ones that were included in there. In your package, I've included some pictures of the current dog park with its size at 0.8 acres. The other areas, and I'll just go through them one by one. The recreation park location, which is near the Ball Diamonds. Some of the pros, it's 1.33 acres, so it's about a half an acre larger than the existing location. It's got both grass and treat areas. It's currently an unutilized space in the recreation park. It's off of the main thoroughfares. It's not in a residential area. It does have access to water from the ballpark irrigation system. Would be easy to tie in and get some water to this area. There's survey space for tables, benches. The washrooms at the ballpark are readily available, and it has a large open accessible parking lot. The cons, there is no natural bodies of water, but and then from a costing, we've done estimates of the costing for fencing in that area would be approximately $30,000. And we really wouldn't have to do much else for that area. The north end retention pond location, this was actually one of the sites identified in the recreation master plan from 2017. It is a large site, potential for walking trail within the park. It's off the main thoroughfares. There is access to water, the natural body of water, but not other water. There's certainly space for tables, benches. The area is surrounded by trees. The cons is, and this is the big one, the area gets very wet. And it's hard to maintain at times of the year. Grass maintenance equipment has gotten stuck in that area on several occasions. So send a mower in, you send a larger piece of equipment to remove the mower and it gets stuck and yes. It does back onto residential lots. There's no current access to pumped water, no washrooms nearby, and it would require additional expense to upgrade the road and create a parking area. Approximate cost of fencing is about $60,000 is the estimate that we've received. The Lochern Park location is 1.42 acres. It's larger than the current dog park. The trees, benches are already on location. There's access to water there. Pump that's currently used to flood the basketball courts. There's ample street parking. The area would be easy to maintain. And the recreation master plan does identify this park for life cycle removal. Because when you think if we got 19 playgrounds, so it's one of those things identified in the reclamation. If you're gonna, at the end of life, that might be a park that you consider replacing or repurposing. And
This was the park we took off our budget for this year, right? Was this the park we took off our budget and we did the park a block north, or is it a different park? Because there was three.
it was a different one. Yes.
Jessup, William
Yeah.
J.
The
Jessup.
the
Yeah,
William,
that's the one
the
that we're
William
doing.
Jessup Park is the one that's getting the work done. So
But we
it
took,
was,
it was it this one we took off our budget of replacing for end of life, or was it the one by the Lutheran church more?
It was the William Jessup Park, which is like half a block west of the Lutheran Church that was removed from the budget this year. This one wasn't in the budget at all, one way or another this year.
Is
It
this
was-
is this on your list?
the William Jessup Park and the Lochern Park were the two parks identified in the recreation master plan for removal. And I believe the William Jessup Park is the one that's getting the new equipment this year. I don't believe any work is being planned for the Lochern Park this year. No,
Right, so, but it would have been, we took it off the budget, right, the Lochern?
I misspoke, Mayor, I'm sorry, it's the John Plaffen Park that was taken out of the budget this year.
Okay,
Which is around the corner from this one towards the Lutheran Church.
okay, so, yeah, because of the three parks, I don't know their names, but I know where they are. So is this one then listed for replacement? Yeah, sorry, thank you.
So the park that was just up there was actually just rehabbed about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. And yeah, it's good for another 12 years.
that's the Lochern Park.
Yeah, it'd be kind of tough to take that one out.
No, so like, I'm just, that's why I'm asking this question, because if we just spent a significant amount of money, would we fence only half of it and keep half for the dog park? And then like, are we gonna have a dog park, like a playground inside a dog park? Then, or would the park that we took off, like it's not on there, what's that one
So-
called, Laura?
It's the John Plaffen Park.
So- Mayor, if council selects this site for the dog park, you would repurpose the playground equipment somewhere else.
Okay,
Yeah, we wouldn't have a mixed use of a playground and a dog park.
thank you, because I was just thinking like the cost of fencing it would offset the cost of not having to put a playground in. That's what I'm trying to weigh a budget, right? So it's not gonna cost taxpayers any money if we fence this dog park, if we didn't have to buy playground equipment, but if we could use this playground equipment for the John Pletham Park by the, you know what I mean? Then that still is a cost saving. I'm just trying to see if it would be like a null cost for taxpayers, because we wouldn't have to replace playground equipment and pay for the price of fencing. That's where that's the direction I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get a zero. It's not gonna cost us anything to put a park for a dog park. It was a really long way around to get there, but that's why I was asking those questions. Councillor Phillips, did you have a question?
Just more of a comment. Whatever location we choose, there's going to be a cost associated with fencing on that site. Whether it's 1, 2, or 3, it's just different amounts costing for the fencing, so.
But if we don't have to pay to replace a park, that's like 100 grand, right? Because we took it off our budget, like we did all that budgeting. So I'm just saying, if we didn't have to replace this playground equipment, that would come off the budget, right? Because it's not gonna be a playground anymore, and then use that money that's already in the budget for replacing it to fence it, then it would be a null cost. You see where I'm going? Now, Counselor Phillips?
The locker and park is not on our list to do any further work at this point.
Okay.
The other sites, I see, this was not my updated RFD, the other sites we actually looked at were two other sites identified in the recreation master plan. One was the south retention pond, and the other was private land next to Quinn Park. For both sites that were identified in the recreation master plan. The south retention pond, too small of an area. And the other one would have required a purchase of land. And then we also did look at the North Saskatchewan River Park as a potential site. And identified those other sites on the one map that was included in your package. So the recommendation from administration would be to relocate the dog park to the recreation park. And
But
then
the base
it would be a budget discussion, obviously, when it comes to the budget this year.
Counselor Caprero has a question or a comment.
Just a comment, just looking at the three options here. My opinion, I do like number one best. It has pretty much everything that we need. I know it doesn't have a natural body of water, but there is still the possibility of bringing water in with the ball diamonds being right there. Just from what I've heard from residents, shade, water, those seem to be the biggest items that people want to see. So we can have that with this one. I think the location is the best. So just my opinion, I like option one.
Thank you very much, Counselor Hutchinson, and then Counselor Phillips.
I agree with Counselor Caprero. I did want to thank staff for including the feedback that we got from the resident on things they'd like to see and location. I would also like to maybe look into eventually having being able to put in additional features, not doing it all at once. I like option one for the location with having everything that's in there, but again, we've got some empty space, maybe looking at other counties, other municipalities that we can add in future years. So my choice is one, lots of parking, bathrooms, everything there that's needed.
Counselor Phillips.
I also like option number one, just for the fact that there's washroom facilities there. And option number three, we're using residential streets to park, which option number one is much more, much easier to park at and probably safer for the people and the dogs going into that facility. And I agree with Counselor Hutchinson that one thing we should look at is play features, picnic tables, making it more than just a fenced in yard for dogs to roam around in, but making it more usable and more just an upgrade from what we have currently.
Counselor Auld.
I agree with option number one, and the one con that's listed in there with no natural body water. I don't see that as a con. I think if we start having these facilities around natural bodies of water, it opens up other issues. Kids in there playing, not supervised, possible drownings. I think number one checks all the boxes that we're looking for.
Very good then. Is this something that we need to make the decision on today?
So Mayor, we're looking for direction so we can actually put it in the budget for council's discussion and decision.
Like, I sure would like to have some, I know that you've got that one one citizen, I sure would like to have some public engagement on, you know, our possibilities before we take it to budget. You know, we all want to park, but, you know, I just like to present. How come we didn't do the park like by the water treatment plant? Because it's got all the same things. It's got water there, it's got bathrooms, it's got a trail system already, and it has natural water. Why wasn't that one of our parks that we looked at?
Mayor, are you talking Riverside Park?
Mhm,
Where we are, well, council's going down the path of a concept plan for upgrades there,
right,
and Dog Park was not part of that.
right, but why couldn't it be? Like, why aren't we looking at that area?
That would be a council direction to administration.
Okay, I was just curious because it's already got a walking trail, it's by water, it's got bathrooms, it checks all the boxes, and we don't have to put any, like,
A few issues we have with Riverside Park is.
Yeah.
One is, it's not, it's a big property, but not big enough to have something where you're gonna isolate the dogs. Because you're gonna piecemeal it now, to add a dog park into something that is supposed to be a feature park. Parking will become an issue. We already identified that with other things that are going on down at the water treatment plant with the trucks, with the boats, canoers all summer long. So there are other issues and whatnot on why we wouldn't have chosen that area. It's more of a feature to draw people in, and I don't think the dog park would fit down there.
okay, thank you, that answers that question, that's perfect. I don't have any other questions. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Councillor Phillips, your light's on. Did you have a question or a
No,
comment?
Mr. Shanks brought up the points I was going to bring up.
Okay. Well, I'm fine with those areas as well. I think the ballpark's great. So I would like to see, you know, a cost savings, you know, like if we're adding a park, then we somehow have a cost savings where we're taking something away so that the taxpayers aren't, you know, footing the bill. That's why I kind of like 57th and 56th. But if we just already put a whole bunch of money into the playground system, that doesn't really work well. But I like that location because in theory, it would be like a null cost, right? And it does have the same things. So I was kind of leaning towards that one. But that's fine with me. I can go with whatever the majority. I would like to have some public engagement before we went really far in the process. That's all. Councillor Phillips.
I think right now we're talking a location. We're picking a location. That's step 1 of 10. I think once we have a location, then we can start talking about, do we want features? Do we want picnic tables? Do we want water features? What do we want in that park? You know, that may be when you can have some public consultation. I think picking the location itself, I think that's step number 1 to bring this forward to budget process.
Yeah. The other thing I just want to point out is that, you know, not every pet owner that's going to attend a park has a vehicle that they're going to drive across the highway. There's no walking trail system to the baseball diamonds right now, really, like, because you have to cross. There's not really a sidewalk unless I'm wrong. So it's again, sort of like, maybe we do need a little public consultation. Like, is everyone going to drive to the dog park or are they going to walk? There's a lot of people that walk their dogs on the trail system or walk their dog to the dog park that we have now. Not everybody drives to it. So I'm just thinking, like, if we put it by the baseball diamonds, is it going to be easy for them to walk their dog to the dog park? Like, it's an off-leash park, right? But they still might walk their dog to the park.
It
So-
is. We do have a walking trail that goes all the way out to the cemetery
Oh, the other side.
on the other side, which is 100 meters away.
I forgot about, they would come behind the back then.
Yeah, and we are through the capital process, going to bring it forward to possibly add a walking trail. Just a link to go from the ball diamonds over towards Fountain Tire and come up along to join into what we had put in a year ago. Kind of finish that loop because there's no safe way for people to access from 50th Avenue.
That's the direction I was thinking,
Yes.
come to, I forgot about going along Highway 750.
598.
598.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that answers that question. Yeah, I like that location. Counselor All,
If there's no more discussion, I'll make the motion that council approves the recreation park location for the new dog park location and instruct administration to bring the project forward for consideration in the 2023 budget deliberation.
do you need to list which location?
I did. The recreation park location.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So moving forward in the agenda, we have an RFD for water treatment plant membrane filter rack replacement.
All right, so we have $170,000 in the budget from last year to do the filter rack replacement. Through many conversations with the manager, Gary, here for the water treatment plant, we've had a lot of issues with the company that actually supplies us with the filtration, the racks. Many emails have gone back and forth between more so on Gary's end than their end. They don't like to get back to us. But what it boils down to is we can't get the filters. They wouldn't guarantee we could get filters for this year to have this project done before winter time, which winter is going to bring on a whole new issue for us with these filters. Really, we're here again to ask for more money and upgrade the filtration system. I'm going to turn it over to Gary to kind of explain what's been going on.
So the plant was built with 3 racks. Each rack consists of 48 modules. If you guys recall the tour, the main floor, the middle floor. These modules, they're microfiltration units and they operate together, but simultaneously they'll go through reverse flushes, ITs 24-hour a day. They'll do integrity testing. And they're at the end of their life expectancy, which means that when they start failing ITs, they pressure up bolt pressure. You can lose 2 kPa. When they no longer hold that 2 kPa, it's typically because of the fibers themselves are starting to deteriorate. They lose elasticity. They'll rupture during these pressure tests or through reverse flushes, which results in us having to shut the plant down. And you locate a specific module that's leaking by doing a bubble test, and then you dismantle that module and you put a pin in it. We were to the point just about a year ago that we started experiencing more IT fails. So we went to council and asked for the $170,000. And that was a quote that was provided to us by this Paul Corp that builds these or provides these modules. The intent was to do 1 rack of 48 modules per year over a 3-year period. The problem was once we obtained that $170,000 in February, March of this past year, we then went to purchase them 48 modules. They weren't available. And it's just a supply shortage. So we've continued to have issues with IT fails and sometimes daily, where we have to shut the plant down and go through this process of keeping it going. The whole time has been waiting on module availability. They only now gave us a proposal of up to 15 days that we have to order a projected availability of 2 racks now. So it would be 48 or 96 as opposed to 48. which would be available in the spring of 2023. They've kind of put us in a situation where we have to forecast that we will purchase these because of the limited availability. Having went this last year of waiting, we're in a position where we pretty well need to secure them future availability. And then the intent that would provide us with 2 new racks out of 3 and put us back onto the original schedule of 2024, the 4th rack or the 3rd rack. So it would be a 3-year process. In the interim, since budgeting and obtaining that quote of 170, the prices have went up significantly.
Councillor Boniface.
This is a company or an item that we should look at no longer dealing with, upgrade to a better supplier and a better piece of equipment to do the same job. Even if we're looking at more money now, would we save money long term?
Well, the life expectancy of these, they're 12, 13 years old. They served us very well. Typically, the life expectancy of these modules are roughly 7 to 10 years. So they have exceeded expectations. It's not. I have looked at alternatives. There's retrofits that would have some complications. They vary in physical dimensions. Sometimes different pressure ratings. And the one thing that we have to consider is that this Paul Corp, it's not just the modules, it comes as an operating process. And so they come on, when I say a rack, there's 48 modules, but on each rack is all its valving, instrumentation, controls. It's a computer program that monitors the TMPs, the transmembrane pressures, takes a rack offline and then reverses flushes, air scrubs, these ITs. And so it's a bigger process than just the filtration of modules. It would potentially require a whole new larger system. It'd be like you can't just change a Ford motor to a Chev motor. And so the costs would probably, I wouldn't even say, but triple or so. So, if it was 20-25% greater, I would say absolutely, but it would be exponential.
That was the same question I had, is if this is an obsolete system, but it just sounds like a replacement part is challenging to acquire.
Yeah, so these modules, they're made, I think in Japan perhaps or something. And it's been a plastic issue with availability, the source and the COVID, everything tied into it, the battery manufacturing. So we're hoping long-term that it would improve. This would secure us 2/3 of the 3. The other consideration too with looking for other modules is that we would have to replace all 3. They operate, each rack operates simultaneously, but under a general program that monitors all system pressure and then with Alberta Environment, it's an operating approval that would require us to apply for amendment with no guarantee of obtaining that, because they want as good or better. And so they would really be combing through the details of it.
What's your confidence level of getting the 3rd rack replaced next year, like for 2024?
It's good because we would have that year. So perhaps next year, like knowing that we would in the spring be replacing 2 of the 3. Having known what I went through, it's a little, sometimes 3 emails a week for the last year. When we say there's been several emails, there's been a lot of emails, and it's been a struggle. It's been tiring, but 2/3 of the operational capacity enables us to run as well, because these racks, 1 will go offline at a time, leaving you 2. So even if we're limping along with one single rack, problematic rack, the two would guarantee us to keep running.
That answered my question. I'm like the same as him. Do we have to order three? Like, yeah, like,
If
you know,
if we went with
clean water, drinking water is really important. It's like, it's above a park.
yeah, if we went with two racks, that's the safe thing is staying with this, because this is what it is. So you're replacing, be it one module or 96 modules, your operating system stays the same. If we start even thinking about going outside that, then it's Alberta environment approvals and having to replace all of them, because nothing is identical.
Counselor Phillips.
Is it safe to say, even if we did decide to change to another system, that they wouldn't have the same supply chain issues?
Some do,
Yeah.
some do. And some will say, if you're buying them today, maybe we could, but I can't guarantee you tomorrow. And that's kind of typical of a lot of things that we're finding.
And the 475, you think that's an updated price for two, right? Not one?
That is their current proposal as of last week, and they've given us a 15-day window to secure that.
Is there any other questions from any council Alt?
Not a question, it's a comment. I have full faith in operations and management that they've done their due diligence, and this is our options. And as Mayor indicated, clean, fresh drinking water for residents is definitely a priority. So I think we should go ahead and secure what we can.
Councillor Hutchinson, did you have a comment?
Comment that I agree with Councillor Ald, and would just like to put the motion on the table. So be it resolved that council amend the 2022 capital budget by increasing the membrane filter module rack replacement project from 170,000 to 475,000, with the funds coming from the water reserve.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Yay! Thank you very much for all your hard work. So it's being 2:30. I think we'll recess for a 10-minute break. Everybody ready to go back in? Okay, then I think we will resume the meeting. So moving forward in the agenda, we're at correspondence for action 8.1, the Parkland Regional Library System 2023 proposed budget. And we were all given a package. Is it someone gonna, Counselor Phillips, you're
I
on the
can-
library board, yeah?
Yes, I'm on the Parkland Regional Library Executive, the board, and also the Rocky Library Board as well. So, I mean, this is obviously a tough budget. There's no question about it. The increase they're looking for is a 20 cent per capita increase, so from 855 up to 875. One of the factors it's also looking at a potential bigger increase is the fact of which census numbers or which population numbers are being used. Because right now there's the municipal affairs numbers, there's their treasury board numbers, and then there's the census that was done. And which this was one of the long discussions we had at the Parkland executive level as to which numbers get used, because each set of numbers is going to be different for each city or each town. And ultimately they went with the treasury board numbers because that seems to be what the government's using now, because the municipal affairs numbers are from 2016, I believe, is the last updated time for them. Although the Canadian census is newer than that, but that doesn't seem to be used. So it's kind of a two-pronged increase because of the amount per capita increase, plus with the treasury board numbers, it compounds that increase as well. And Mr. Kraus, you had a percent figured out what it would cost.
No, it's a 23% increase from previous year. So it was 855 per capita for the last 3 years. So their proposed budget is 875 for this upcoming budget. So they are looking for council to either approve their budget going forward, and if council does, and then we'll put it into our budget, or request them to revisit their budget. Parkland works under the premise that their budget's approved if 2/3 of the members are in agreement with it. So if 2/3 of the municipality belong to Parkland agree with this, then it actually does become the budget. So.
And we're just one of the 2/3, like one member, or do you mean 2/3 of this, like?
2/3 of the municipal members of Parkland.
So that would be
It-
us,
it ex-
Black Falls, Red Deer.
it goes all the way down to Didsbury, Black Falls. I believe goes as far as Stettler. Goes up almost as far as Camrose, as far as the north part of it. So there's a lot of municipalities. And part of this increase also is because it has been held for the last number of years. And now with with the CPI being between 7% and 8%, that's another factor that's playing in, is that it was held for a number of years, and now CPI is so high that the increase is larger than it probably normally would have been.
What does this do for, like, does it come straight out of our budget, or is this something like how much does this 8.55 actually affect us specifically?
It would be out of our operational budget.
Yes.
So what number does that change it from? Do you know? I don't see those numbers here. Like, I looked through them.
Yeah, I don't have you have the dollar amount, Mr. Crowe?
I would have to go look at our 2022 budget to see what it was. But for 2023, we'd have to take the increase and plus find out what the finance department has our population as to calculate that out.
So you don't have those numbers. And they would like an answer today on this.
I believe they're asking as soon as possible. Yes, that's what it says in the email.
Counselor Alt.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but it'd basically be an extra 20 cents per person on top of what we're original.
That's correct.
Does anybody have any further discussions about this?
So just using that calculation in our basic population, we're looking at about a $1,360 increase to our budget.
That's the, I just needed a ballpark for what we're talking about. So would anybody like to make a motion? Or do we want to just accept Counselor Boniface?
I'll make a motion that we accept this new budget and give the increased amount to the library. Is that correct?
Yep. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table? And that's carried. Libraries are so important to our world. People forget sometimes all the uses that they have. Moving forward in the agenda, 8.2 Wild Rose School Division Joint Meeting Request. So that is a February either 6th or the 8th of 2023. I like the Wednesday better personally. If that works good for everybody else. It's a Wednesday in February. I just find that's a better day than a Monday. Mondays seem to be kind of busy if we have council that Tuesday, right? Do we feel like we all want to have another meeting with them? Like, is there direction from administration that you'd like to see us meet for any specific, like we've already negotiated our joint use agreement, or is that something we're still working on?
So your worship, no, we're still working on the joint use agreement, which is due June 2023. So it's probably a good opportunity to discuss that. Another item that has come up administratively with the school division is the school resource officers. And re-looking at that program. In fact, our administration is meeting today on that. So that might be a good discussion between council and the trustees.
Okay, thank you very much. So if there's no problems with that, I think we just move forward. I'm sorry, Councillor Phillips, did you have something else to say?
No, I was just going to say, just in having good relations with our school boards, whether it's Wild Rose School Division or the Red Deer Catholic Board, I think it's wise to have meetings with them periodically, just to have good communication, good relations, and whatever upcoming topics need to be discussed.
Okay, so for moving forward, do we need a motion to? Okay. Would someone like to make the motion?
I'll make the motion to have admin arrange a meeting with, I guess it'd be this is the
Wild
3
Rose.
Wild Rose in February or whatever date would work. That's sufficient. I don't have any, my calendar's not even here yet.
Like I looked it up and I just think the 8th would work better.
Okay, on the 8th, February 8th, 2023.
Thank you very much. All in favor of the motion? And that motion is carried. West Central High School Annual Awards Ceremony invitation. So that is, I lost the date. September 21st.
October 21st.
Sorry, October, not last month, this month. October 21st is a Friday at 7 p.m. There's no school that day for the Catholic school system. So if anybody's got kids on that day, but I would be willing to go. Does anybody else want to attend? Do you think we should? I think it's a nice to attend. Are we looking for, administration's looking for a motion that we attend that? as a council or?
No, just that, so, you know, that council accepts the invitation for the mayor to attend the awards ceremony. Presents an award.
Okay. Would anybody like to make that motion? Counselor Caprero,
I will make that motion.
thank you very much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. The next item, 8.4, there's a small grant, Rocky Support Services Society is looking for a $500 small community grant towards food costs for a barbecue that's being held in Rocky Mountain House, and they're anticipating that they'll get back to $1,000 to $1,500 from the event. This is different than our normal format for the. They didn't.
No, so your worship, so under the grant policy program, if it's a small grant, it's for $500. It's just a letter to council and council to make the decision.
Councillor Phillips,
And just looking, this event has already happened. On September 10th.
Yeah, that is correct. And I know Miss Breeze has been in conversation with them, and there's a reason for that, which I can't recall.
So your worship to Councillor Phillips, so what happened was the emails were going to our old legislative assistant box. And so now she responded to the town inbox, so then it actually came to the proper place. So yes, the original application was actually sent to the town before the event occurred, so.
Councillor Auld, did you have a question or comment?
My question was about the date, but I believe it falls within our scope for the small grant request, so I'm in favor of this.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so would someone like to make it a motion for 8.4? Councillor Auld,
I'll make the motion that the town of Rocky grants the small grant request to the Rocky Support Services Society for their fundraising barbecue.
thank you very much. Any further comments on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Moving forward to 8.5, the Rocky South 4-H Beef Club Rural Safety Program. So the email is actually from the advertising people, is that right? And not from Rocky 4-H, it's from their advertising partner. John Quigley is from the safety coordinator for the program. So he's the advertising coordinator for the program. And I looked through the list here. They're asking for an ad to go into their booklets that gets given out for free in the community. And the cost would be $315. That would be our total cost.
Mary, that's correct. Historically, the town has participated in this program.
Okay. I see that the County of Clearwater is not on this program, and because that caused me to question things. Because obviously this is going to help youth in the county, right? It's all for 4-H students that live in the county that are going to be like acreage and farm safety. So I'm just wondering, you know, if they're not participating, why are we necessarily? Just a random question. Councillor Hutchinson, did you have a comment?
A comment. With previous businesses, I've contributed to this. And personally, I wasn't impressed with the exposure that the books get and where they're delivered to. There was a minimum number that went out there, although it's a good cause, but and I also am kind of on the fence with the town being a sponsorship of something like this. If the books were made locally, if they were supporting something right in our town, But I'm not comfortable in participating in this program.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Hutchinson. Councillor Boniface.
I agree with Councillor Hutchinson, having some experience in this in the past. I would not like to see us put money into this in the future.
Is there any other comments or questions on this item? So could we just accept this for information? And move forward? Yep. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the Rocky South 4-H Club Safety Sponsorship Program as information.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. So correspondence for information. Is there any items there that anyone like to discuss on the list? I was wondering if we wanted to talk about garbage for a minute, because there's been quite a lot of emails. So like 9.6. Do we want to have a discussion about, you know, some of the feedback we're getting from
So
residents on?
Mayor, just a comment, because Ms. Button brought this to my attention, because we have been receiving calls actually in support of the way the program is running right now. It's just that we don't seem to get them in the formal way, but we do. Ms. Button can probably expand on it because she fields most of the conversations, but just to let council know.
Yes, thank you very much, because I was going to say as a topic, because I know that it's been brought to my attention that it's 5 people out of how many people have garbage in all of Rocky. And they're like, in my neighborhood, with the 25 people that I see every day, it works fairly decently. And it's definitely a change to get everybody on board. But can I please have some feedback from what you've been hearing?
Sure. Well, we've been hearing lots. Early September, primarily, there were people getting used to it. Actually, through September, that's what we had, and that's what we heard from our residents, is they were getting used to it. We provided the schedule in the utility newsletters. There are the instances when the resident is not, because the utility account is in the property owner's name. Perhaps the resident who's living there may not have received that information. So we did have that experience. That was just a simple matter of sending them the new schedule, showing them where they can proactively find the information on our website and that type of thing. So that resolved a bunch. We had some whose property owner or landlord had actually in the past declined the green bins. And now, of course, the town has reduced the actual black bin pickup. And so some of those residents are like, but we want to compost because this is how we want to do it. So we've accommodated them. Last week, we did have a bit of a kerfuffle, and that was just a temporary, momentary communication lapse between us and our hauler with regards to what was picked up curbside for recycling. Council will recall when the program first rolled out, it was asked for everything to be bagged. Oversized cardboard only can be flattened underneath. There was no definition of oversized cardboard. And with wind and rain and snow coming, our hauler is really adamant that it needs to be bagged, which is absolutely fine. And so we're working on communicating that, being like, hey, now's the time you really got to follow the rules, which is bagged, and oversized cardboard greater than 1 square meter when flattened, TV boxes, appliance boxes, that type of thing. Otherwise, and because I've seen it, and I may have done it myself the time or two, put out a open cardboard box with all my flattened cardboard inside it. So that's not acceptable. And that's what they're sharing with us and what we're now sharing with our residents. That is a separate issue from the every other week. It's just that last week it was compounded, it all came at once. This morning, Mr. Krause alluded to it. I actually had a phone call from a resident who had seen the agenda, who had seen the emails and said, have you gotten any positive feedback? And I said, yes, but not formally. And the resident said, well, you tell council. This is a positive caller. And so I guess I've just done that. There you go. So the reaction has been mixed for sure, but ultimately our message is the same, which is all waste streams cost money, and council is striving for a balance between cost, sustainability, and service. And so if Councillor Ald's household produces more garbage than what your base fees cover, either he needs to pay for it or everybody's base fee goes up to pay for it. And when it's put like that, most people are very understanding because and they take ownership of it, the trash that their household is producing, or maybe they commit to better diversion into those other services that we have. I didn't know I was going to have the floor, so no, I have nothing prepared, but no, but that is, I think, summarizes the past 6 weeks of here. And I did have some comments in my report at the last council meeting that's included in the CAO's report that did mention some particularly aggressive people that did meet the threshold for, our workplace violence policy and was reported as such, but they were in the minority. I probably have had maybe 160 interactions, and there was only 3 that left us with follow-up action. Everybody else was resolved amicably. So I think that's important to share as well.
I get to. Thank you so much, Ms. Button, for that information. I do think, if there is, the majority are happy, they're just not, happy people don't complain. They don't say, great job on garbage pickup on Tuesday. So I feel that the program is worthy of continuing forward for a little while longer, getting, general citizens. I did want to address that property taxes do not pay for garbage, because that was one of the misconceptions in one of the letters that I read through all the letters. And I just wanted to point out that utilities cover utilities. So property taxes don't have anything to do with how much our garbage collection is. The utilities have to pay for them themselves. And I feel like I'm repeating Betty, and she'd explained it so well to us a number of times, but it would not change your property taxes. The garbage, it has to do with the utilities. And we feel that the utilities are a fair, average set price. And we're just trying to get our service levels and our utility costs in line with each other. And we've worked really, staff, administration has worked really hard to come up with solutions so that we have fair utility pricing in our community. And there's lots of little things that citizens can do to sort of like offset some of their garbage, like the green bins and the recycling. And I certainly would like to hear from other customers or like citizens, if they want to write a letter, good or bad. I'm happy with what administration has come up with for our due diligence to be, looking after our citizens. Councillor Phillips, so you had something?
Yeah, change happens all the time. Some people are very respondent and willing to change. Others are, less willing and less wanting to. But, we made a change that is good for the environment. We made a change that's, taking waste out of our stream. So it's not ending up in landfills. It's going to its appropriate sources. And I actually did talk to a resident this morning that was quite in support of what we're doing, saying that we're, Rocky is being innovative and we're doing what's environmentally responsible, and was quite happy with the changes that have been seen. So it's just not everyone's going to like a program that we put in, and not every program we put in is going to be popular, but it's the environmentally sound program, and we're doing it as fiscally responsible as possible.
And it wasn't easy for us council people to come up with solutions to monetary budget issues. I feel that we worked really hard, administration worked fantastically hard to come up with solutions for us to stay on a reasonable fee structure. And I mean, every other community charges for garbage. It's just, garbage is expensive. It's a cost. With that being said, you know, we certainly are open to, you know, other ideas and hearing feedback because we represent the community. So I just want to say that. And also I know that there's a few households that have larger families, but even the Canadian national average is like, it shouldn't be a little old lady who lives on her own or man with a small household shouldn't have to carry the burden of costs for really big households. And I know it's totally not fair. And that's, I just want to put that out there that we are looking at all citizens in our community, the single grandmas who want to stay in their house forever and the larger families. And Councillor Boniface, I'm sure you have had lots of conversations about garbage.
Yes, I have. I've been accosted quite a few times over garbage. I've really been looking at it quite seriously, I'll say, over the weekend and going back over previous bills from my business dumping garbage. I can honestly say that working in so many other communities, I can tell you that Rocky has some of the cheapest rates in getting rid of your waste than anywhere. If you really want to see differences, go to Calgary, Edmonton, or Red Deer and dump the same amount of waste. I dumped the back of my pickup at the Red Deer landfill and it cost me $160. The exact same type of stuff went into the big garbage bin up in the top and it cost me $10. That's a big difference. And as a business owner, I get cranky when I took a hot water heater in the other day and had to pay $10 for recycle. I did not like that because it's going into a metal bin and it's being recycled. But I also understand that we live in a society now where we all have to learn that the waste we generate comes at a cost. And so I think it's time for citizens to understand that if you want to save money on garbage, do better with sorting your garbage and do better with it. And that's what it comes down to. It's all on us. We have one planet to look after and we're doing the best we can. And here we are asking citizens to step up and do what they can do as well.
Thank you, Councillor Boniface. So with that elephant in the room out of the way, is there any other items that we want to discuss or on the information list? Councillor Phillips.
If there's no further discussion items, I'd like to accept item 9.1 through 9.7 as information.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phillips. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So moving on to 10.1, the mayor's report. Did anybody have any questions or are you dead again?
No, my battery was dying.
Oh,
That's fine. Thank you.
I think mine's charged. So I attended quite a few events over the last little while, and I wanted to point out a couple ones that I thought were really good for our community. The Battle of the Rockies was very well attended, and I think it showcased our community quite well. Recycling bins worked great at the rodeo grounds. So it was nice that we are not only doing it in our own homes, but at events to have recycling on site. So that was really great. The Demolition Derby, I was surprised with how many people attended that. There was people from out of town. I thought it was just a fantastic, very well attended event that people were very excited to be out, and it was great to be there. The Western Canadian Aerobatics competition, they had the Compassionate Care Hospice Society charity barbecue at the airport at the same time, and that was very well received. I found the competition to be really exciting. I know it wasn't advertised as per the Canadian recommendations when having a competition, but I did attend and there was quite a few people there. They would give you a sheet of paper that had all of their pattern. Everyone had to do the same pattern of stunts. And it was really cool when you had that paper to follow them in the air. There was no other problems. I mean, they had firefighters were there in the morning having meetings because, of course, on that weekend, there was lots going on with the smoke from Lake Louise and Jasper. And there was quite a few fires in Alberta at the time. So it didn't negatively affect the fire base. And one of our local residents, Jersey Streza, I'm never going to get his name quite correct, but he is going to be representing Canada at the Worlds. So I think that's pretty awesome that someone from Rocky Mountain House, I mean, he lives at Ferrier, but it's still, to me, I'm sure he's got a Rocky mailing address. So that's really exciting. The Bighorn Fall Classic was a powwow that they had, and it's been, I think they said like such a long time since they've actually even held a powwow, and they were very appreciative to have access to the Rocky Rec Center for that weekend. And I know it was really nice to see some of the kids were competing with their regalia, and then they were changing quickly so that they could go play hockey in the arena next door. So that was really neat that local students were participating, or young people were participating in that. And it was very well attended. There was competitors from Colorado, Montana, and there was some spectators they mentioned from Denmark. So I know that was really neat. And then the last thing that was really neat that I did was I went to the Consul General of Japan's official residence in Calgary. And I have quite a bit of information on there that I also got from Dr. Carriotts and Mary, who Roy and his wife were at the reception. They're from Rocky, and they are one of the founders of the society that was done in 1984. We're one of the oldest twin towns in Alberta. For the Japan, and it was a huge deal to that community. I know that Kim Hastings is living in our Twin City right now, teaching English with her family or her husband, and the reception that they got was quite amazing when they found out that they were from the Rocky. So the Kalmakaua Friendship Society was very honored to be there with them. And so I'm glad that we attended that. So those are all kind of the exciting things. I look forward to this coming up year would be their 40th anniversary. And I'm hoping that they can organize something really exciting. Last year it was held, and Laura went on behalf, because we were at FCM, to Tabor. So I did meet some council members from Tabor, and there was council members from Stettler at the reception. And so it was really nice to connect with them. So does anybody have any questions or comments on my report at all? Councillor Phillips?
I do have a question on the September 16th farewell reception at the Consul General of Japan's.
Yep.
Correct me, I looked back to see when we had a council resolution to attend that, and I do not see that.
So we didn't have a resolution to attend that. It was an invitation that I felt as mayor I had to attend on behalf. And I actually asked in a council meeting if someone else could attend for me because I had a conflict, and I resolved that conflict.
I recall a letter saying that there was going to be an upcoming event, but no date was set.
Yeah, so the letter that came specifically to me had a date, and that's what I was trying to get someone to cover for me. I didn't realize that the letter to me was different than the letter to council.
We never received, other than that one that we received in that council package, that's the only one we ever received. What the point I'm getting at is in order for either the mayor or any members of council to attend events outside of the community or even in the community, we have to have council resolutions before that happens.
Well, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I've been attending a lot of events in our community without having resolutions. I assume that this was something that we always did because I was specifically invited and we've had this relationship with the Japan, but I will certainly make sure that any future events that I'm invited to, that I get a council resolution for it. I did bring it up at a meeting and because I didn't think I could make it and no one else could make it to that date. So I brought it up at that meeting with the letter and I changed my plans so that I could attend. Councillor Hutchinson?
When you brought the letter to our attention, you didn't have a letter confirming a date. And you had asked if anybody would like to go and you says, oh, well, I don't have a date, so we'll get back to you. And that's how the conversation had
Okay.
gone. And again, the resolution was never brought up.
Well, I apologize. I will make sure that if any future events I'm invited to, I make sure that there's a resolution.
And it's important, so council knows what's going on, not just the mayor, but council also knows what's going on. And as a council, we're aware of what each individual council member is attending, because there may be, not that this event would not be, we would have totally did a resolution to attend this for sure, but maybe there is a group or an organization that council feels we shouldn't be attending. And that's why we have council resolutions to make sure that all of council is on board when we're going out and representing the town of Rocky Mountain House for events or organizations. That's all.
Well, I apologize again. I assumed that the letter that was on the council package was the same as the letter that I had. That's why I didn't reprint it off. So I apologize that council didn't have the right dates, the letter that I was received. And I'll make sure that I forward anything from now on. Is there any further questions or comments about my report? Okay, so I need someone to make a motion to accept for information the mayor report. Councillor Boniface.
I will make the motion to accept the mayor's report for information purposes.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. Moving forward, 10.2, Councillor Alt, did you want to speak about anything on your report?
No, mine is pretty short and sweet.
Councillor Boniface, did you want to bring anything to our attention on your report?
Nothing. I'd like to thank Tracy for helping me out so much well, whoever helped me. Thank you. One day I'll give you actually a timesheet so I get paid.
Councillor Caprero, did you want to point anything out on your report?
Just wanted to mention that I was able to attend my first AM convention on the 21st and the 22nd of September, and it was just a nice experience. I learned a lot, and I enjoyed it. So,
Which seminars did you go to?
I attended Leadership Style and the Impact on Organizational Culture and Economic Environment, and I also went to Tips and Tools for Effective Council Meeting Participation.
Good. And thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Councillor Hutchinson?
Just wanted to note a few webinars I've taken. There was one in the overview of plastics and where a country is in the EPR process, and another one on council's role in economic development for elected officials. And any of those are available if anybody else is interested. They're online and they're free, usually an hour long, but there's a lot of good information. I attended my first meeting at Rocky Learning Center. It was just a real brief meeting. It was the first one after their summer break. committee of a whole senior housing board meeting, I wanted to mention that they're having their open house October 6th from 1 till 3. Right now, we've got 16, I think maybe 14 vacant rooms. It's starting to pick up a little bit at the lodge, but there's still vacancies. And their 10th anniversary celebration will be held next year, 2023. I also attended the AM convention. I added in my report there's a couple pages. If you want to take the time to read them, I won't get into all of them, but I took the counselor's leadership style and impact on organization, economic development, housing for all, which was a panel discussion on affordable senior housing priorities. As a group, we attended the a meeting with the RCMP. Alberta transportation meeting. We had some clarity on our twinning of the highway. And we spoke with Minister McIver of Municipal Affairs as well. So again, the reports are attached to the agenda if anybody wants to read the full version of what the weekend was, or I guess it wasn't the weekend, what the few days were.
Thank you very much. Councillor Alt, did you have a question?
Not a question, a comment. I just want to appreciate it. Councillor Hutchinson, your report on the Alberta transportation meeting and municipal affairs regarding the highway. So they were very explicit that they were not doing the twinning through town, nor considering a bypass. So I appreciate you bringing that back.
Thank you very much. Councillor Phillips, did you want to go over anything on your report?
No, everything. I also attended the Alberta Municipalities Conference. My report's attached. If anyone has any questions, then they'd like answered, I'd be happy to do that.
I didn't have any questions. So I'll make, if there's no other questions, I think I've got everybody's report checked off. I'd like to make a motion to accept for information the council reports 10.2 for October 3rd, 2022. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Excuse me. So moving to 11.1 action list. Mr. Kraus, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Thank you, Worship. No, the list is up to date, so if council has any questions on it, but everything that is not completed is well in progress. So.
Seeing no questions, would someone like to make a motion to accept for information the action list for October 3rd, 2022? Councillor Hutchinson?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. Do we have administrative inquiries today? Councillor Phillips?
I don't know if this is really an inquiry, but when we were at the Alberta Municipalities Conference, there was some awards that were handed out for dedicated senior team awards and also long service CAO awards. And I would like to look at, we have a couple of directors that have some long service senior awards. And we also have a CAO that has been around the block a few times. So I would just like to, look at what we can do to put those names forward for awards at the AM conference for next year.
You like that as an administrative inquiry? How to
go about doing that? Yes.
So your worship to Councillor Phillips. So the answer to your question, it's a resolution of council for either one of those awards. That council nominates the senior management team for the senior management award and so forth. So it's just a resolution of council, and then the application's filled in and submitted to Alberta municipalities.
Everyone, a follow-up question?
Not a follow-up question, but probably a follow-up resolution. We do have, some senior directors. So I would like to, make a motion.
A notice of motion?
I don't think that would fall in a notice of motion, would that, or would it?
So.
You have to
Your
have-
worship, actually, yeah, that's correct. So
Okay.
under notice of motions, you would put a notice of motion. And then it would go to the next council
Okay.
meeting for council's discussion.
Okay. Then I'll wait for the next.
Okay, so is there any more administrative inquiries?
Would just want to follow up with that comment. Would it be appropriate for council to discuss that, perhaps when we are just as a group at a service level review?
That's one option for council. Yeah.
And then have it figured out what our thoughts are, and then it would come to council.
Thank you very much. Any other administrative inquiries? Okay, do we have any notices of motion now? Or would you like to wait until we bring it up at service level review?
I can wait till we do it at service level review. That's fine.
Okay, all right. So is there any other notices of motion?
So for administration's clarification, you want this added to the service level agenda?
Would it have to be on the agenda, or would it be a casual conversation with council at their get together dinner?
Yep, no, that's fine. So
So just a casual conversation.
Would it be better to do a notice of motion and then we can discuss it in closed session?
I don't think it needs to be a closed session discussion. I think it can be a regular council item.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where it's going to fit.
I'm fine with it being a topic of discussion at service level. That's whether it's casual or on the agenda. I'm fine with either or. Does admin need more than that? Okay.
Okay. So Councilor Hutchinson, you're good with that? Okay, so I think we'll take a 5-minute recess. If there's no more notices of motion, and then we can go into closed session following that. So we'll have a 5-minute recess. So we've come out of closed session at 4:22, and thank you, Laura, for putting us live again. We have no motions resulting from closed session. And so I'd like to call the meeting adjourned.